Welcome to the Voodoo Power Podcast. Welcome to Plates and Pancakes. We're sitting down today with Brandon Byrd. Brandon Byrd's the owner of Byrd Sports Performance. Well, that's a tongue twister. And Byrd Sports Performance Podcast, who's had some amazing guests on this show. So not only are you turning out great athletes, you have a great podcast. So we've become friends, and it's my pleasure to have him on the podcast again. So welcome to the show, Coach.
Thank you. That's a great introduction, my friend.
Well, it's kind of off the cuff because we've already been talking about an hour.
We actually had a podcast before the podcast.
And sometimes that works to break the ice and to get into a good conversation.
It is. I always do that all the time. I mean, it's you got to break the ice, get the flow.
And you find out real quick if you click with somebody or if you don't, and then that kind of dictates how you run the podcast. I don't know if you do that, but it seems like that's how it works for me.
Absolutely. Get them feeling good, and you almost pull out some good things you want to talk about in the podcast.
Well, and that's what I've noticed is I always have a notebook with me. And then as that conversation goes, you're like, oh, wait a second, there's a note. And then you develop better questions than what I had to begin with.
I don't like the podcast where I send it to them. They go, Byrd, give me a list of questions. I like it off the cuff, off the dome, off the bracket,
I've done it both ways. Some guys, they want something, and I always have them typed up anyhow, so it's really simple to do. And other guys are just good with, throw whatever at me. So everybody wants an organic podcast, which is great, but you can't be dry either. On either side of the mic, it's hard to have an organic conversation if I'm dry on something or they're dry. Well, that's out the window.
Exactly. I feel like I'm like a pitcher, man. I'm in a Major League Baseball game. I'm in the batter's box. I got to hit what's coming at me. If it could be a slider, it could be a curveball right down the middle, 90 miles. I'm hitting whatever coming down the pipe.
And some guys really like that. Some guests, I shouldn't say guys. I've had quite a few females. Some guests really like that. Others want to be prepared, and I understand that because I'm a guy that probably does way more homework than what I really need to do. So, it is what it is.
I always try to ask questions that are kind of the answers to, but I'll try to uncover some things I don't. I want to uncover things I never heard of,
And I agree with that. If I kind of know the answer, then we can build off of it.
You can drive where you want to go.
Exactly. And if you talk about something somebody's comfortable with and they want to talk about it more, that really seems to help as well.
100%.
So we've gotten to be friends, and we did another podcast. We did part 1 way back when.
Got a lot of people messaging me from that one.
Well, good deal. I'm glad people listen to it. It's since then, I think you've been one of my go-tos on about any question I have. So I got to say, I appreciate that.
Yeah. I like when people will have me on, or I'll always like to kind of, I won't say be a mentor, but like if they have questions, yeah. I'm someone that you can go to, I've been doing it for 23 years, man. It's and I have wisdom. I don't think I'm the smartest guy, but I have wisdom. I've seen a lot of problems, and I had to solve a lot of problems. If that makes any sense. And
I got into some stuff this last year that I didn't have much experience with. So you were the guy. I know you've had quite a few 200 kids that have really excelled, and this year was my first year with 200 kids. So
it's funny. Back in the day, I ran track. I hated that event. And when I get into coaching, I did not like the 200. I was a 100 guy. It was either 400 or 200. Did not like it. I despised it. I didn't understand it. That was part of it. And then I said, let me just research it and really try to deep dive into this thing. And I dove deep into it, and now I love it. It's my favorite event to train.
I would agree with that. I was really scared of it when we started, and then me and you had a few conversations, and then I put some of that into action, and then some of it I may view different than you now after I've done it, which is okay. But you give me the starting point to really dive into it and figure it out. So when you're helping an athlete, how do you view the race?
My buddy, Coach Milton, he's one of the best sprint coaches in the country, I think. And my buddy Rohan, these guys are brainiacs of speed. But anyway, I was telling this, like, I go, Milton and Rohan, I got these kids that just, they aren't good on the blocks, but they're fast though. And so, I mean, chop it how you want to. That acceleration coming on the blocks is super technical. I mean, any sport, you want a football player to come in for the 40-yard dash, the block. I don't even, field sports, I don't even train. I don't even get that technical because it's not that serious. But when it comes down that 40-yard dash and that coming to the blocks, it's super technical. And some kids just can't grasp it. I mean, they can, but they can never master it. It's hard. But they actually have foot speed. And then so they're out of the 100. The race is over them. They can't catch up. So, but yet you can train in speed endurance, and yet they're going to be fast. And like Byrd, that's all it is. They're fast kids. They can endure speed longer. They can still be successful. And I said that's pretty noble that you said that because that's why I view it as.
Now, this is how I told the kids, and me and you may differ on how we view it. So I'll get your opinion. But I had a really good 200 kid in here. Went and watched him race a couple times, and he was in the gym. And I'm like, look, you may want my advice, you may not. This is what I see. I said, you're up and you're out of your acceleration in like 4 steps. You're as fast as you can go before you even finish the curve. And then in the straight, you're just, you're just trying to outlast, which is a strategy that could work. But I said, what if we kept you in acceleration longer, you maintain through the curve, come out of the curve, and then hit it and see what happens? That conversation died. Never heard nothing good or bad from me. There was no feedback from this whatsoever.
Okay.
And so I had kids getting ready to go to districts, and I had 2 of the other kids on that relay team, and they were in the gym, and they're like, hey, what did you tell, the kid's name's Kobe, what did you tell Kobe about the 200? Okay. And I'm like, well, this is what I told him. Why? I was like, he never told me anything about it. And he said, well, he actually had dropped, I don't know what he dropped, almost 2 seconds off his 200 when he changed to running it that way. So then they wanted to run it that way. So I told them, they ended up going on and breaking the school record like 3 times just because they changed the way they raced. And I heard Huntington talk about that. And then I've also heard Charlie Francis talk about that. Even though it was in the 100, it was shorter, like go through acceleration, hold. I heard Huntington talk about wait till the tracks give them back to you, and then hit your kick. Well, I mean, the 200 is kind of the same. It's just spread out. That's what I told them, but I don't know if you agree with that or what you're telling your 200 sprinters.
No, there's a couple different race models, and that's one of them, Sometimes I have kids, well, sometimes you can delay their acceleration, like you're saying, right? So here's the thing is, basically you can only really hold your max velocity. I don't care how good you are. The only person the freakiest person is probably Noah Lyles right now. He can probably hold his max velocity for 25, 30 meters, but most people it's 10, 15. So once you burn, the faster that max velocity, you're gonna slow down. I don't care how that's just human body does. So once your top speed, it's the person who wins the race is who slows down the least. Okay. So if you have that 200-meter dash, you want to shorten the time time you have to deaccelerate. So what you're telling him to delay that max velocity or get near it so they have less time to slow down. And what happens when at a certain point, you're talking energy systems here. So once you get past 8 seconds, all of a sudden your body starts, running out of oxygen, and then you get lactic in there, and then you're getting more acid in your blood. It slowly starts to creep in 8 seconds, 9 seconds, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, etc. But then after that, the faster the max velocity, you're going to burn up even faster. So at 15 seconds, about 150, if you go out too fast, you're toast. You'll lose a second. So what you're doing, you're delaying. What your strategy is correct. You're delaying their acceleration, and you're delaying the deceleration in the process. That makes any sense.
Would you take what you just said there? Let's say Noah Lyles is top velocities, 25 meters, 30 meters. Well, shoot, with his stride length, What are you getting? 6 steps, 7 steps of top speed, and then he's out of it.
I was talking to Lance Brownman in New York. I think he said no Lyles is an 8 foot 10 inch stride. That's crazy.
Yeah. So what you're getting 4 steps.
Yeah, you are.
You
That's
know.
why
So
that's why you see him at the end of the 2 and the 100. He just gobbles people up. He's elastic. He can bounce to the ground and have shorter ground contact at times and longer steps because he's so stiff. That's where he eats people up. That's a strategy. If he gets out with you, and he's not a good accelerator, but and late on the races, he knows his stride is length is so long, he can maintain. Now, if you're really elastic and you're efficient in your steps, you're not going to DSR that much. And that's what Noah allows. That's how he kills people. Bottom line, he got people up in from the 50 to the 100, from the 100 to the 200. He's an animal because of that reason. So now I have a girl that's girl named Kaylee and Jocelyn. They're inelastic. They're okay. They're not great. I have to control their speed. So for them, I tell them to get up to race pace and then float. Race pace is 97%. You can't go to 100%. I tell them to float from the 50 to the 100. They're conserving energy. If they hit the 100%, they'll burn up. The acid will hit their blood and they'll tighten up. Once they come on the backstretch, then they reaccelerate, but they're not reaccelerating. They're actually picking up speed, but they're actually slowing down the deceleration. I got two other girls. Alex Lee, she's my fastest girl. She's in the Patriot League, D1 League, and the Mid Atlantic, Army, Navy, Lehigh, Bucknell, Colgate, American. She broke the record, 23:58. She has a slow natural acceleration. So she naturally gets up to speed slowly. So in her, I just tell her just go full speed the whole time because she hits top speed later and she's elastic like Noah. She's bouncy. So she never fatigues. Same thing, my girl Amanda, same thing. So it depends on the athlete. You got to analyze what their strengths and weaknesses are. Like Randy Huntington would say, like a business plan, like SWOT, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. You got to see what strengths and weaknesses your athlete has, and derive their race model through that. How fast are they? How do they accelerate? How elastic are they? Basic expression, sprinting is the expression of your physical capabilities, your components, your body. So I'm just trying to. It depends on the athlete I have, and that makes any sense.
yes, that makes a lot of sense. And I had got the Altus course that was re-engineering Sue that Randy Huntington did, talking about all the different things they did with Sue. And it was on sale, man. I don't know. It wasn't. It was maybe $50. That was an amazing dang video. Huntington got into the patience of the 100, so I'm like, okay, well, if he's starting to think about the patience of the 100, that means the patience of the 200 almost has to be double. And then he was talking about the reactiveness of the track and let that athlete hold the mid part of that race until that track feels good. And then that's when they want to hit the kick. And with these high school kids, it seems like they want to hit the kick right out of the block. And it's just like, you can't do it. You're going to burn up, kid.
If you're trying to muscle through that race, forget it. That's what he's talking about. You have to react to the track. You strike the ground with force, and you have to bounce off the track and let the energy return to you. And that's being energy efficient. You muscled on that race, you're toast. It's good. And even the 100, you can't muscle it. You can't muscle go so far. You can muscle 40-yard dash, you can't muscle 100-meter dash. No, no, no. You got to be patient and relax and bounce off the track. Let the track do the work and the lower limb. Be elastic. If not, you have to train that quality. I had this one girl, and she goes, Byrd, you don't do that much. I don't do that much endurance running. But what my philosophy in the 800, the mile, the 400, the 200 is become efficient in your form and be elastic. Because the reason this Alice girl is so good, I test the RSI. That's one thing I believe in. Because the sprint stride, an RSI is basically how much ground time you have. The lower the ground time, the higher the vertical, the higher RSI. Now, when you sprint, you strike the ground with force, you're gonna have a lower ground contact time and a longer flight time. That's a stride. So to me, it kind of correlates to that. So the people with the highest RSIs, even though it's vertical, they can actually it'll translate to a stride length. So when you watch Alex Lee's stride, she has a short ground time and a longer flight time because she's elastic. She can serve, and that people with the soleus and the Achilles tendon, the tendon does not tire as fast as the muscle does. That's another thing people understand. So the soleus, I think it has so much. I think it has it's a bunch of twitch fibers, and then it accepts 10% times body weight, 10 times body weight. The tendon, it absorbs and stores energy. So if you have elasticity, you can, like Noah Lyles is, that's what makes him so good speed endurance wise in the 2. And the 400 is pretty good too. So Alex Lee's the same way. She just bounces off the track. She uses the track. She bounces off it. The soleus and Achilles, the force she applies in the ground, the tendon reforms and deforms quickly. She shoots off it and has a long stride length, and she's efficient. She has everybody's muscling down the track. The muscles, they go through glycolysis and stuff, so they burn up. So my philosophy is that 200, you got to make yourself elastic. Now some people are genetics to it. They get like this Alex Lee, her elasticity kept going up and up and up and up and up and up. I think she should be world class one day because she got that potential. So that's how I train. That's how I go about it. It's not like running. People do all these repeats, and I'm doing 10 200s and all this BS. Instead of what makes you slow down that 200 is what happens. One of your muscle groups fail. Your glute fails. Your hamstring tightens up. Quad tightens up. Because the elasticity in your lower limb, your calf and Achilles is not working. You're not being elastic. You have the muscling down the track. So if I can make you everything stronger and more efficient, you get endurance like that no matter what, and you'll run a faster 200, 400, 800, all etc. Does that make any sense?
It does, and it would also lead me to go to something we talked about before we started this podcast. Is okay, so we just talked about Noah Lyles, 30 meters is what he's holding top speed. Rough.
There's a race before I go into that. I forget where it was. I never seen it like it. I want to say it was Paris, maybe. If you go online, I look at this. It's Omega Timing. Omega Timing does the IAAF track and field timing system, FAT. If you go on that website, you can pick on the races, and it gives you a biomechanical analysis of the race. You should check this out. So it gives you everybody's 10 reaction time, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 to the 100, and then the 200, same thing. There's a 30-meter fly. There's the last 40-meter fly. There's the first 30. I've never seen this. Noah Lyles, I think he had 0.84 and 100 from the 60 to the 70 to the 80 to the 90 to the 100. I've never seen anybody do that before. And I don't know why nobody make a big deal about it. That's ridiculous. Because what you usually see is the sprinter will usually hit 0.8, like maybe 0.84, 0.84, then it'll be 0.85, then 0.86 and 0.87. Never will you see someone hit 0.84, 0.84, 0.84, 0.84. That is ridiculous talent. So that's just him being super elastic. But you want to try to get your athletes that way. But you might not be like, he's God given. You know what I'm saying? So that's a good thing. You can see the splits on there, the biomechanical analysis, and you can see the deceleration. They see the acceleration and deceleration curves in these sprint races.
And I guess that's where we could go into is we're talking about the best sprinter in the world, holding it for 30 meters. Well, 170 meters, he's either in acceleration, maintaining, or deacceleration.
Right.
It would lead us to believe in the conversation we had prior to this that the broad jump and training the broad jump has more direct effect on sprinting than the vertical jump because you're in a phase more times than not of horizontal pushing as opposed to up into flight. As you've been doing this, is that what you're seeing more and more of?
Yeah, when I first started going this, I was like, man, the vertical jump, everything's about the vertical, 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 vertical. I think that comes from the NFL Combine because that's the main event, and the vertical is important. What the vertical does is, your body is a weight. So when you're running down the football field, track, soccer field, whatever, your body has to be strong to set up and be erect to defect gravity. Now, when you're floating through space horizontally, you have to hit down vertically to stay above and defeat gravity. And Charlie Francis called this horizontal displacement. And so we're talking about the hip height. So in order to stride long, and let's say someone's a slow person, they apply vertical force not as much. And what happens is then they apply horizontal force to go forward. If they don't apply that vertical force, the gravity will take them out of the air quickly, and that'll let alone will cut their stride shorter. So that's what the vertical really does in the sprint. You're feeding gravity mainly, but the main component is as you hit down to feed gravity, you got to push back to push yourself forward. So you're applying vertical and horizontal forces. Now the vertical forces are less in the beginning. I'll say the less, but you're applying more horizontal force when you're accelerating. But as you get down the track, the horizontal forces are less, but they're still there. But the vertical forces are more dominant than the acceleration. So, but the main theme is you're applying vertical force down that track that's making you move. Now, what happens is your vertical force, and you're also fighting friction too. When you hit that track, when your foot hits that track, it hits the ground and it's meeting your foot is meeting the speed of the ground. You're not actually hitting the ground and clawing it. You're actually at a certain point you're hitting at top speed. You're hitting the speed. Your foot is matching the speed of the ground, but there's still friction there. What happens is at the certain point, chemically you're getting more acid in the blood at 8 seconds, and then you're incurring more friction in the ground, and that slows you down. But that's why I'm saying that. So really, that's why I'm saying the broad jump is very important for speed. And I've done some tests over the years. My best broad jumpers are the fastest people. Every year I see an example. I had this girl, Alexa. She is going D1 now, but she's a hurdler. She got quicker. She went from a 15.8 to a 15.1, broke her school record and a league record. And she went from 45.98 to a 44.74. Her vertical went up 2 or 3 inches. That's pretty decent, but it's not radical. But her broad jump went up like a foot and maybe 15 inches. Guess what? That's where she got the speed gains from. And I wasn't doing the wrong thing. She just couldn't technically jump vertically. So when I talk about the vertical jump to my kids, and I said, I'm explaining it when you squat down to broad jump, you're applying force down and back, and then your leg cycles back through, and you land. That's like a cycle, a sprint cycle. You're extending the leg and you're flexing it to jump. And you have to actually, to get a good broad jump, you actually have to flex the leg and bring the leg through back in front of your body to get a good broad jump. So to me, it looks like a sprint stride to me. So I train broad jump at least, every once a session because I know how permanent it is. And now it's come down time that the college football camps, they're giving us scholarships based on a 40-yard dash and a broad jump now and triple broad jump. So Brian Bannon told me years ago, man, Byrd, I don't see it with the vertical. And I said, ah. And I more and time went on, I'm like, he's right. So and that's why the broad jump is very crucial. My kids go to college, they don't have a broad jump. These football programs have broad jump. So I think just leaving, they're just leaving speed games. I had one, I have a certification, Byrd Sports Program certification. I had my buddy down in Texas, Drew. I was telling him this because he did, in his program, he had everything. His program was fabulous, but his 40 times were moving, but they kind of plateaued. I said, have your kids broad jump. He was testing the broad jump. I said, now focus on it more. And when he did that, guess what? The 40 times kept moving up. They kept dropping. They kept dropping. And so that's where I say the broad jump is crucial. I'm a believer now. I mean, you probably seen it too.
Well, that's what I'm wondering when me and you got down this rabbit hole. Is that why deadlifts and box squats create such faster sprinters? The deadlift is the broad jump.
It is.
The hips are it's a static broad jump.
You're sitting hip of the glute.
What I've noticed was with the box squat on your better athletes, it seems like what they learn to do better than your average athlete is they learn to drive their hips off the box forward. Essentially, it is a deadlift with the bar on their back.
It is.
So those two all of a sudden correlate over better to a broad jump, which now you watch times drop. You can't get that. I mean, you probably can. You could probably get that hip drive in a free squat, don't get me wrong, but for whatever reason, the box squat creates more growth. And I don't know if it's that dynamic overcoming static and the drive of that hip forward.
People go, Byrd, why do you box squat? Man, that's a waste of time. But this is why you box. That's why I tell my kids, why does box squatting work? Now, there's obviously static overcome by that. That works because that's now your nervous system has to work harder to get off that box because it's come from a static position to a moving position to moving movement. But I think the real magic is if you free squat, you can't sit back. You can't sit that butt back on the box as much as you can on a regular squat. You can't sit back far enough. Your knees have to shoot forward to keep the bar in the center of mass. But on a box squat, you can sit that butt back, and they're going to hit more posterior train, more hips, hamstring, and glute. You can now the weak bad side is you get back weak quads, but you can counteract that by having a close stance, And so that's why to me the box squat is clutch for speed because now you can hit more posterior chain than a regular squat. And that to me is the magic of the box squat. Now the deadlift, you can't avoid it, but you want a sumo deadlift too. Because now your feet out wide, your butt has to sit back and you hit more hamstring than glute either. And the conventional, you're getting a little bit of glute, but not like you do in the sumo. So those two things will alone make you run faster, And that's the staple with my program. I've had the results from years and years and years of data. I've just seen so many people get fast from these moments. The heretics will say, they got an Olympic lift and they got a regular squat and front squat. I've seen the magic. I mean, I had someone go to New Balance Nationals. I mean, every year since 2000 and I want to say 12, I think. The only year was the COVID year I missed. So last year, my kids broke 25 track records and at different schools, colleges, 2 league records. Alex Lee broke the Patriot League record in 200 400. I just seen too much from it. But that's why it's the posterior chain. Louis Simmons would say, the hips, the hamstring, the glutes are the sensors of the leg, and that's right. You better do exercises that focus on that. Because really the hip flexor builds your turnover because it brings the leg from the front to the back. But really, the hamstring, what happens is your glute fires first, your glute fires first, your hamstring, your absolute back. And then your calf is around. That sweeps the legs backwards. The quad is very little, but only the quad doesn't get you the blocks, really. A little bit of max velocity, but really is the most posterior chain. So that box squat, that's why it's king, because you're sitting back and you're hitting muscles. If it's like Louis would say, your knees shoot forward, you're hitting more quad, and then and your ass sits back, You can hit big. You have a big butt, and that's what makes you run.
Well, I think that's why sumo deadlift is in wide stance box squats help so much is it builds the outside of that hip. And when you're in acceleration, that's where all your force is coming from. It's coming from the outside of that hip. And then as you shoot across diagonally to hit your next foot, you're going to be on the outside of the hip. So if you stay conventional too long, I don't think you develop those muscles that you need to really drive out of them blocks.
I tell people a lot of these college coaches, they want their program to revolve around a power clean. So how do you start a power clean? You conventional deadlift. And what else they do? They front squat and they power clean. Well, those are all good exercises, but they believe the clean is the magic bullet. But they're leaving gains on the table because they're not hitting the posterior chain enough. So the conventional deadlift's not hitting no posterior chain enough. The front squat's not hitting posterior chain enough. You may have a little acceleration gains out of it, no doubt about it. But you're at a loss a little bit. So, but now you have to go back and do accessory lifts. If you're doing that, fine, you know. But I just think those things, the things I've seen with those two lifts are gold to me. And I told you my program changed every 3 months. I've been doing this. I tweak something, but those things I can never change. I just seen the value in it, you know.
Yes, once you find the big rocks that are creating monsters, you don't change those. You can change the accessories,
Okay.
but you're not going to change a main mover that's creating dogs.
There's small things you might do, you know, single leg squats and stuff like that. You might do a staggered trap bar, stuff like that. But like those are the accessories to me. They're the main rocks, you know, stuff like that. But the posterior chain is key. Another thing is that's gold is it sounds crazy, but I love glute bridges because now I can quantify how strong your glute is. Hyper's good, but I can quantify in that glute bridge now. And so now I know, now that's helping my kid deadlift scope too. And my broad jumps. So if you can move a lot of weight in that hip because you're hinging your hip, boom. Another thing too, I had a kid Cyrus I was telling you about. Now this is one of I'm really proud of him because this kid I got him, he was running a 12,800 meter dash as a sophomore. And he ran a 28,200. A lot of kids would have quit the sport. That kid said, I'm gonna lock in and train. He was stiff. Now you need mobility to sprint. If you don't have the range of motion, you can't be efficient. Sprinting is two things. It's basically expression of what shape you're in. It's how much force you can apply, mass specific force in a short amount of time. You talk about, Ken Clark is transitional where you're applying force down and back, but it's mass specific. How much mass specific force can you produce in a short amount of time? That's going to give you a short ground contact time and a long stride. Then if you have poor range of motion, you're toast. If you're stiff, so I had to fix his range of motion. Stiff mobility. Then he had his strength to body ratio was off. The kid was 180, 175, could squat 220. So he couldn't defeat gravity vertically and couldn't push his body down the track horizontally. So I had to get him stronger. So it was like, and then he has a lot of slow twitch. I think that's what he has. You got three fibers. You got one, two, two B. I think he had a lot of slow twitch. So you had to really be on your game then. I got that dude down to 11.37 in 9 months and at 23.5. But it was it was attacking all those weaknesses, man, and getting them relative strength up, box squatting, sumo deadlifting, plyometrics. Another thing too, I think too, my coach running in the 200, 100, whatever. When I tell my kids when you're running, if you watch Usain Bolt or Noah Lyles run in slow motion, they hit the ground and they're floating. Noah's strides like 8 feet, 11, 10 inches. It's bounding. It's a bound. It's a jump. Really sprinting is you're jumping fast. So well, everybody knows plyometric works. Why do they do them? Because every step is a jump. Every step is a jump. If you have like the mini hurdles, put the mini hurdles out too far. It's like they're jumping through them. Short them up, they're jumping through them fast. Go too short, there is no jump. It's just cycling over them. But you want to have basically your sprinting it's a happy medium of a long stride and a fast stride. It's a happy medium because if you're in there too long, that's not good either. And if you're in there too short, it's not good either. So it's a happy medium. So it's always about adjusting and manipulating stride length and stride frequency. I read this book, Ralph Mann just passed away. God bless his soul. But these Olympic sprinters, like the guy like Noah Lyles is striding 2.6 meters per step. That's freaking far, dude. I mean, people can't broad jump 8-10. He can step it. The females are stepping 2.3 meters, which is seven and mid 7 feet. So, it's how can you get them to apply much force and jump themselves to each step that fast? Jumping 8 feet every step, applying that force, being reactive. So that with him, I was addressing all these needs, and that's how I got his time down that fast. It was just force capabilities and strength to body ratio, and has his hamstring strong, his hips flexors loose. I mean, it's a lot of. I'd rather make somebody run a 100-meter dash and 10.5. Have a kid get down to 10.5 is harder than have somebody squat 600 pounds. It's just a lot of things that the body has to do. There's a lot of things you have to address.
So you're hitting on something here, and I think I've noticed it, and we've definitely changed how we do things over the years, and I think I'm getting results out of it. Maybe, maybe not, but sprinting is mass specific. We spend a ton of time though running unweighted in the majority of capacities. I mean, you were talking about this before we started this podcast. It's like, well, if you were deadlifting a kid or you were cleaning a kid and that kid's weight never went up, would that be effective? You'd be scratching and clawing trying to figure out why that kid's weights didn't go up. If a kid's time is not dropping and it's been that way for a long time, well, wouldn't you be looking for other ways? And that's what we started doing. So we started doing a lot of chained acceleration work and a lot of bounding acceleration or bounding with chain work for that reason.
Exactly. You said it perfectly. If you were going to weight room and you put nothing in the bar and you just train with that bar all the time, you'll get better initially, but after over time, your body can get better. It's the same weight. It can adapt to it. I only need to apply this much force in this bar. That's what happens when you're running on a track by yourself alone, because your body's a weight. If your body gets used to your body weight, you can't get no better. It's a law of adaptation. So how do you change it? You put chains on, like you're doing, and make the body and the nervous system work harder to apply more force. Bounding with chains. A bound is people don't realize when you're jumping. Well, when you're sprinting, you're applying, 3 to 5 times, body weight ground reaction forces to sprint. And when you bound, it's actually might be more. Triple jumper is 15 times body weight. So a bound is allowing you to train with a heavier forces than what you're normally you're running with sometimes. To get faster, it's just like the weight room. You can't just train with the same weight all the time. You train with a heavy weight and you train with your actual weight you're comfortable with doing. Then your body adapts and gets stronger and it applies more force. All of a sudden, you have to go heavier and heavier. So that's the same with the chain sprints. You got a young kid, maybe they have one chain on. You run them, they get adapt to it. Now they run faster. Now that one chain no longer becomes effective because they get adapted. Now you got to put two chains on, and etc. I believe your regular sprinting should only be maybe 25%. But these people will sprint body weight on a track. I think your sprint should be down on the hill, resisted more than regular, not unresisted to a certain point. Here's the thing too, with resistance sprints. And when you're accelerating, your body is at a standstill. You need to move inertia. So you need to be strong in the beginning of the race. The strength affects the first couple steps. So that way, so you have to apply more force in a long amount of time. So your ground kind of time's gonna be long in the beginning, and your stride's gonna be shorter because you're just getting going. But as you get going, now I have the OVR sprint. and I'm in the OBR sprint and the OBR jump. I clocked the ground times. I found that the ground time on the first step, my good kids, it's like low 0.21 or 2.2.3. If I have a kid go 1 point or 0.14, they're applying force too quickly. They can't push. They don't have enough time to push long enough to get to the second step and so forth. So the first step you need more time to apply more force in the ground, and that's why your first step is going to be short. The second step is going to be your second shortest step of the race because you need more time, ground time. It's an inverse relationship. The longer the ground time, the shorter the stride length. But you need that time on the ground to push to get yourself going as you get momentum. Once you get going, momentum by pushing horizontally, now you have momentum. The body is not just your body weight no more, is less. It's like you have a sled. Once you get the sled moving, once you get momentum, the sled is now traveling at the pace, at almost the space that you're running. And the sled becomes a little bit weightless. Same with your body. So now you have to apply less force. You need less ground tech time to move forward, and now your stride opens up that. So that's why the strength and resisted sprints are key. Now, if you do it too much, it will affect your ground time down the track, and that was not the good thing too. But it's a happy thing. You can offset it with doing plyos and hurdle hops, and you're doing fast sprints. You're working on that. You're working that fast reactivity. So there's a happy medium. It's an art and a science. So you have to kind of know when to win. But really, I think acceleration is a lot. It's definitely helped out with strength work and sled work and chain work, stuff like that.
Now, what you talk about in there, yes, your first step of acceleration is short in relation to what you're doing. And I say that because if you watch a poor sprinter, it's shorter than it should be.
Well, yeah. Another thing too, that broad jump is key. When you come out from step 0 to step 1, that is a broad jump. If they can't apply force because they're weak, that first step is gonna be really short.
Yes.
Step 0 to 1, because they can't broad jump. They can't lose horizontal force. They can't hinge. It's really that soleus and that glute and that quad. If that's weak, you're toast, dude.
And when you first get a kid to figure that out, when you take them from, when you first start seeing a lot of these athletes, their first step's about half of what it should be. Oh, yeah. So then when you start getting them to where it should be, it almost looks funny when you tape it. It almost looks clumsy.
You could overstride too. Some people will overstride. Let's use the cute fancy terms. The projection of the hip. That hip needs to come out as far as it can. That hip, and when your hip comes out far, that's your foot strike is right beneath it. But the shin must be angled backwards. If you stride too far and your shin is angled downwards, you're applying the force down and not back. So you need the hip and the foot to come out far on step 1. That's another thing that people mess up on.
Now you talk about overstriding. I don't think overstriding in the beginning is that big of a deal. I think it's
not that big a deal.
I would rather have them overstriding because at least you're projecting as opposed to understriding because you can fix that. Once you take the weight off and all that stuff, that fixes itself.
Right. Most of my kids, I don't mind them overstriding. I want them to stride far first. I don't care how bad it is.
Right.
I want them to have that feeling, but then I can correct the shin angles after that. That means they're pushing. At least they're pushing behind and they're traveling out further. If they're striking the ground wrong, that's okay. I can fix that later, but I'd rather fix the projection, the push first.
It comes down to everybody. I don't want to say everybody, but it's very easy to teach algebra before you teach basic math.
There you go.
If your first step's trash, what good does it do to work on the second and third step? You can't do anything with the second and third step until the first step's right.
I'd tell you what, and people say squat no work, but that first step is a squat. When you're in your 3-point stance or you're in the blocks and 4-point, you're actually somewhat in a below parallel squat. And when you step on step 1, you're in a squat. You're just leaning. If you turn it sideways or diagonal, you're actually in a squat.
Yes, if you take that and turn it 90 degrees, yeah.
So basically that's where the squat and the box squat, you're sitting back too, because your angle on your knee is 90 degrees, so to speak. when you're stepping. It's fairly close to 90 degrees. So basically you're squatting yourself down the track the first couple steps. And I say that's why I say squat builds acceleration, the deadlift builds top speed. Because now you're in your top speed, you're upright, you're hinging more. So to speak, if that makes any sense.
It's a weird way to look at it, but I could follow that line of thinking, I
Does that make
think.
sense? So basically, so that's why our buddy Jared Bidney down in Georgia, he's all about 40 and acceleration. And his kids have massive squats. They don't really deadlift much, but they can deadlift if they want to. But that's why they can fly to the 10, the 20, the 30 and crush it. Because they have massive squats. You're squatting down and then they vertical jump. That's the first 10, 20. You know, you master that, you can kill it. That's why some good powerlifting coaches that can coach a squat, they can get people to run as long as they do some explosive stuff with it.
And I could definitely be on board with that. I think the majority of the learning happens from 0 to 1. Everybody wants to focus on what happens after 1, but
Oh yeah, yeah. Now
0 to 1's it.
there's a study too. I mean, I have done the studies as well. I mean, the first step, it's usually my kids are like 6. You want to be like 3. Well, this is from Quartzford too. It's 3 meters per second. That's like 6.5 miles an hour. But the second step is going to be about 9, 10 miles an hour, which is 4 or 5 meters per second. The third step is about 10, 11. So you're at 50% of your maximum speed by the third step, which is crazy to think. So if you don't master those first 3 steps, you're short. The whole race is set up by those first 3 steps. But that is crazy to think. You make the most gains, the most speed, drastic speed change in the first step. And the second step is the second most drastic speed change. You go at another 2 or 3 miles an hour. When after that, you're only making maybe half a mile an hour to maybe a mile an hour per step after that until you get the max velocity, maybe 20, 30 yards. The top guys is down there 40, 50 meters down the track. You know what I mean? So, but the first 3 steps got to be mastered.
And those are the ones most neglected.
Very most neglected. Very most neglected. You know, you gotta really if you really want to have a truly fast sprint, you gotta get out quick. And that first step is good. It's very technical too. I mean, it's very technical. Some people like I don't, some I got this soccer girl, Ava. Soccer's a support acceleration. She's beautiful acceleration. She's got that first step, second step down. And so, but then there's some people it's like they can't do it. It takes a lot of work. So that's why I don't do a lot of 3-point starts unless they're training for the combine or they're track athletes. Because me, I see a lot of things people don't see, and it's a lot of things correct. So it takes a lot of time. But when I do want to get somebody fast, that's very technical. I mean, I'm watching film. I've been showing them film. We're trying to get the hips out and the steps out a certain distance. The more force you apply, the further you can step, the faster your first 3 steps can become, especially in step 1. If you got something in broad jump 10, 11 feet, look at these guys in the NFL combine. That first step is boom. I mean, they're out. They're stepping out probably 2.5 yards per step on the first step. You know,
And that's why I think Fahey nails it with his hurdle hops and then spreading that distance. All you're doing is creating a better broad jumper.
that hurdle hop is really good because now it's more like a sprint stride. I was telling him about this too. I never see him do that. That's something kind of innovative. But most track coaches do a high hurdle hop, where now you're going against vertical gravity. You know what I mean? So, but he's doing like a sprint stride where you're going over a hurdle and trying to see how fast your ground time and trying to see how much length you can get, which is to me it's like a sprint stride. So I think that's a very brilliant way to do it. I've never seen nobody do it that way. And he won't lengthen the length of the hurdle unless your ground contact time is a certain it drops. Which to me that's sprinting right there. There's a thing called the Muscle Lab. You ever heard the Muscle Lab company? They make a 1080 thing called it's called a Dynasprint, Dynaspeed. Anyway, they have a laser. The laser, you put it behind them. I didn't say $8,000. The laser will, it gives you 1080 data. It gives you step length. It gives you force. It gives you watts. It gives you peak power. It's crazy. Now, it gives you an RSI. The RSI is like how I said on the jump. It's ground contact time and step length. It creates an RSI for the sprint step. But that's kind of what he is doing with the hurdle hop broad jump, which is actually brilliant. I've never seen anybody do that. I've studied this stuff for years and years. That's innovative, man. So I haven't even dug into it yet. I didn't need to dive into that because that's very pretty much, if you triple broad jump, that's what you're basically doing. So there's no obstacle in the way.
And we do a lot of triple broad jumps, and we do resisted and unresisted.
That's brilliant because, you know, contrasting is key. Contrast methods. If, you go from a weighted exercise and unweighted, the body produces more force with resistance. It can't tell when you take the resistance off. And eventually it becomes canon where it reacts like that all the time. So now you can blow up a triple broad jump, blow up a broad jump. So it's very smart to do those. I do them with the a run rocket sometimes. I'll do triple broad jump with that and like contrast out of it. And so I have my Marquise, he's my football player that I trained for 7 years. And he triple broad jumped 32 feet, which is incredible. And he broad jumped about 10.6. And that dude can fly. I mean, he ran a 4.4 on a laser. One of the fastest. He was just named all state, by the way, Pennsylvania. Ran for 700 yards. Again, it's about how much force can you reduce in a short amount of time to create a short ground time and a long step. Marquise can step he can probably step close to 8 feet per step. He's only 5'9" too. You know, so that little dude can stride. And when he gets on the field, he's gone. He had 7 plays over 50 yards. He had 13 over 40 yards. And I think over 30 yards, he had something absurd like 20 plays over 20 yards. He's a game breaker, But that triple broad jump is 32 feet. You know what I mean? I think Alex Lee triple jump, my girl, she triple jump. She does 26 feet. That's why these people can run, dude. They can run. They can apply force quickly and horizontally. You know.
I have to chain my guys to keep them in the gym.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't have enough room.
If you got a small space, you have no choice to weight them down. But eventually they're going to be monsters. When they do it for real, with no resistance, they'll be monsters. They're like, man, the body's like, wow, I can do this. I've been handcuffed, now I can do this unhandcuffed. Golly, what I'm saying? They'll be monsters,
All my college kids are back now. I mean, you talked about that earlier, but them and a couple of the kids I had here, they're hitting in 20 feet. They're doing that in 2 jumps. They may be lacking a few inches, but they're hitting 20 in 2.
That's impressive. I mean, if you can get in 2 steps in 20 feet, that's impressive, dude. Now, you're in that barn too, right? Or are you in the you got a surface down there?
Well, half of it's mat, but where they're really half of it's mat, and then so
I thought you had some dirt in there. No.
Well, if we go to the barn,
Okay.
but we do it in the gym, so I've got mat and concrete. So
okay.
A lot of times they'll open the door and they'll have to start outside the door so they have enough room that they don't smash into the wall on the other side. But
that came from Europe. Max Jones quadrathlon. That's the med ball throw, the broad jump, the triple broad jump, and the 30-meter sprint. But they realize those things correlate to excellent acceleration and speed. So now the football team is realizing that. So they test broad jump, triple broad jump, and a 40-yard dash. But if you work on that triple broad jump, your first 3 steps are gonna be crazy. And that's gonna set your whole, 20, 30, 40, 40-yard dash, a 100-meter dash, set the whole race up. Because we know by the third step, you got to be 50% of your max velocity, you know.
And I think this last year is where I changed my mind on a lot of this stuff. Now, the guys were running at track practice. I don't know everything they did at track practice, so that wasn't me. But all we worked on here was acceleration and chained accelerations. And I had one kid, I think they said he got 20 points at state. Like the majority of the state title fell on his shoulders. He got second in the long jump, second in the 110s. He was on a 200-meter team that got second, and I believe he got third in
They're
the
doing.
three.
Are they doing 4x2 up there?
Yeah, yeah. So he was on that team, and a few of the other guys. So I had 3 of the 4 that were on that team, and all we did here was chain them up, and I never let them run past. I mean, really, I bet we never ran past 20 yards. We just chained them up and just got that acceleration really good.
See, that's the thing. If they can accelerate, man, and plus you're doing that plyo, like just by doing that plyo, triple broad jump, that makes your max velocity good without even in a short space. Because again, when you're down that track, you're applying force horizontally too. You know, vertically, but definitely horizontally. Dr. Justice would say, Byrd, it's ridiculous that people would think it's only vertical forces. Because how do you get down the track? It's horizontal too. So you're doing this sort of broad, you're actually helping their top speed. I believe if you don't, I believe the correlation between the broad jump and the triple broad jump, I can pretty much tell it's almost the same. Um, for my girls, it's very close, but I'd say it's whatever you broad jump, you take away about 2 feet. That's about what your step's going to be. And for the boys, now the girls, it's a little less. If they can broad jump about 8, take away a foot, they're going to satisfy their step. That's the kind of I've kind of been seeing with my data. You know, you get a girl getting broad jump 6 foot. Guess what? They're gonna barely step 5 foot when they're running. Because you don't have much time to prove yourself a force. Don't have much force when you're sprinting. You got a lot of time and a limited time to broad jump, but not too much time. So without you not knowing it, you're actually building their max velocity capabilities by doing that. Those 2 broad jumps, 10 feet, and in working acceleration. It makes any sense.
I knew it worked. I didn't know why. That helps make sense of why it's working.
Yeah, because they're learning to push. If you can push, you still got to push when you're in acceleration and max velocity. It just is because you're working the extensions of the leg. I tell people it's the glute fires, the hamstring fires, the opposite QL, and then the calf makes you reactive. That gets you horizontal on the track, and that's what the broad jump is doing. That's what it's doing. So I'm really big in that broad jump. And if you're doing that, you're just without even in a small spot, you're actually hitting the things that make you run max, have a high max velocity without even doing it. Now if you do it, it'll even be better, So, but and nobody has the space, It's the wintertime up here. It's freezing cold. I'm blessed. I have 100 feet. I'm lucky, man. But years ago, last year I had nothing, So I had to get it done in a small space. When it's cold, you can't do that stuff. I can't run outside, So, that's how we kind of do it.
Yeah, it was 15 here yesterday and it's 20 today. You're not going to get a bunch of kids outside jumping right now.
I think that no disrespect to the southern states, but the people in the cold climates getting these kids to run 20-meter times in the 21 flows in the upper 20s, it's amazing because they can't be outside in the wintertime. They can't do it. So the people get the kids down that low and they don't have an indoor track. They can coach. You know what I'm saying? Like my buddy Milton, my buddy Rohan, they got kids. My buddy Rohan told me, he said, I've had a kid run under 22 seconds and 200 for, I think he said 14 straight years. In this cold weather, that guy's a genius. My buddy Milton has a bunch of girls go, I mean, he has a 24-second club. I mean, in this cold weather, he's a genius. So you got to think about plan B, C, and D because plan A ain't there. You know, that's got to be creative doing the speed stuff. But again, sprinting is an expression of your max strength, your explosive strength, and your mobility. That's what it comes down to. Once you have those components built, dude, and you're doing the right exercises, it's a wrap. You can run fast. You don't have to, without even running. No. I mean, Jerry Biddy don't even run. You're in a short space, and you got the guy that won 20 points at the state meet. That's incredible. You know, incredible. And you built the engine before we got to the practice. You know, it was water on the bridge after that. No, this is my best year I ever had. I had 25 kids break some sort of record, a league record or school record, definitely school record. But somebody, I think three kids broke league records, and then I had one girl, Natalie Walters. She broke a district record in jumps. She was the indoor state long jump champ. She jumped 19 feet 5 inches. She's now, that was her third state long jump championship. She had one triple jump championship. She's a silver medalist in the triple jump this year. She's been to New Balance Nationals 3 times. I think she's seventh indoor and New Balance. Now, almost she cried because she was All American. I almost cried too. But I had 13 districts. Now in Pennsylvania, there's 12 districts. The winner of the 12 districts automatically goes to states, and then people qualify and make it. So there's only 12 districts, and some of the districts are just so rural. There's not the resources of the participation to move fast. So really, it's really the area around Pittsburgh, the area around Philadelphia, the area around Harrisburg, in my area, they got the fastest kids. So it's really 5 or 6 districts that are competitive. So I had 13 district champs from the shot put to the hurdles to the jumps to the 100 to the 200. It was amazing. And the triple jump, long jump, high jump, and then I had 10 state medalists this year, which is actually it was my best year. So I had just a lot of motivated kids I had working from 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, grade. And some of those, my hurler Faith, when I first got her, she's running 18 seconds in the 100 hurdles. I got her. I said, "You're gonna break this record." She was smiling. She goes, "Byrd, I don't know. We'll see." Her cute little voice. And the first year she dropped like 2 seconds. She went down to like, I think she was 16. And then she got then she got them to 15.4, 15.3. I said, "You're gonna break the record." Was 14.6. I said, "You're gonna break that record." She's like, "We'll see." And then guess what? She broke that record. She broke a 40-year record. And then she ran the hurdles. She was running 50 seconds. I got her down to 44.1, you know. And then I said, "You're gonna medal." I kept saying, "You're gonna medal the states." She medaled in the states. She took 7 in the state. She took 6 in the indoor states. And then I mean, that was just something that's hard working, hard work, and then technique. I had this girl Amanda. I don't get I'm not handed the golden goose. Amanda was running 27 seconds in the 200. That's okay. It's fairly average. It's not like she's gifted, but she had a hard work ethic. So I said, "You're gonna medal in states." Guess what? She came 0.2 seconds. The district record was by Talitha Diggs, who's a professional, and 24.3. She ran 24.55, and I was broke the record. I wanted to break the record, but we couldn't do it. I mean, it was a hard record to break. She medaled with the nationals. And that was one of my those were just two of my medalists, man. It was just they shouldn't have been there. So my shot putter, Carter, he went from 45 feet to 55 feet. He medaled in one district. Because if people think I just do running, I do everything. My high jumper, Gavin, was 6 feet 2. He is 6 feet 10. He took second in the state. Only reason he lost, some dude broke the state record and was number one in the United States and jumped 7.3. He would have won the freaking thing, you know. And he's only 5 feet 9. He jumped 6'10. he can he can run up and touch 11.1 on the vertex. He can now two-hand dunk easily, reverse dunk. I mean, he's only 5'9". So it's just, again, it's just applying a lot of force in the ground in a short amount of time. Now he's in Mama University now. He might win this conference the first year. So I'm just proud of these kids I had this year. This year I'm a little lean, but I got another girl. I got a couple good kids going. I got this kid called Luckenbill. I took him from 11.9 to 11.1. He's the fastest fresh in my district. And he came from this school called Blue Mountain. I had this kid named Cole Swick. I took him from a 23.4 to 21.8 in the 200. He would have broke the record, but he got injured this year. But indoor, he ran 20. He ran 22.14, the fastest 200 in my district ever history. And I was in college, but he should probably go 21.5, 206. And I have a kid named Aiden. He's in college now. He was at 23.3. I got him down to 21.3 now. I'm trying to, he made D3 nationals. I'm trying to get him under 21 now, so he might do it. He opened up this year with 21.90, his fastest opener. So I have some good kids right now this year. Alex Lee, that girl when I first got Alex Lee, I remember I got her skinny girl, tall, skinny, 115 pounds, maybe. She ran a minute in the 400 and she ran a 27 in the 200. She was, Byrd, I just want to break my 400-meter school record, 59.5. I said, we're going to do it easily. You're going to win the district. She went down to 57 in the 400. She went down to 25.3, from 27 to 25.3 in the 200, the first year. Then the next year, she went from 25.3 to 24.64. And I said, before that, she goes, you're going to medal next year. And she's probably thinking, no way. This is nobody medaled from my school. That's not, no. But she's like, we'll see. I kept saying it every day. Guess what? She ran 24.6. She medaled. And she ran 56 in the 400. Now, come freshman year of college, she has a great coach, Richard Alexander of Bucknell, great coach. Her iron was low. He tested her iron, and I think her iron was like 8 out of 40. Go take some iron pills. She had endurance now. And so she went down from a 56 to a 53.06 in the 400. And then she went down to a 23.58 and broke the Patriot League record. And she's amazing. Now, that girl has a 4.0 RSI, which is crazy, dude. And that girl is like a kangaroo. But when you don't get tired. You come out that 400 meter, the 300-meter turn, the last 400, she just bouncing on the track. Everybody's muscling it. She just pulls away. 200, come out that curve, just blows everybody away. She's elastic. She can get a long stride. She's bouncing down the track, So she, I had some good kids, man. But again, it's all comes down to proper training and knowing knowing the components of fix. She box squatted, dude. Never ever really power clean. So we just did it, and lots of broad jumps. She broad jumped 8'8". 8'8", 8'4", somewhere in that range. So she special. So I didn't think she's that special, but I think she could go down to 51 and make the NCAA. She made U20s last year, the U20 meet. It was my goal to get some of that meet, which is very difficult. She got there. So, that was special. That was a special year for me last year, man. But I love speed. I figured if I can make someone run fast on track, I can make a soccer player run fast or a football player run fast. Marquise ran a 1087 at 200 pounds. So, I mean, he ran 4.44 laser to laser. Had he been the NFL Combine with his .08, because of the manual start, he might have been a 4.3. Actually, Virginia Tech got him at a 4.3, 4.37. And then who else? I had one girl, my soccer player, Ellie Cucker. She played in the U20, U17 World Cup. Amazing. This girl runs under 5 in the 40. She ran a .92 fly 10. She played a district championship and a league championship. The day after the championship, she ran a .9. She ran 21, almost 22 miles an hour in a fly 10 the day after a soccer championship. The girl's amazing. And so they invited her last week to the NWSL National Women's Soccer League Combine. I didn't know. She didn't tell me. She just popped up there. She ran a 5.32 40-meter dash. And everybody's like, how did she get so fast? She goes, Byrd, I was plugging you. She goes, everybody, I got a guy. I don't know if you can get to Pennsylvania. I got a guy. So, but she beats my track girls. She beats my track girls. Ellie's amazing. I mean, she beat my Amanda girl that won that ran 2045 in the 200 that runs. She beat her, and she basically beat tied Alex Lee. This girl is she can run track. She's amazing, but like I just train her like she's running the track, and she's amazing. That helped her in the soccer field. That made her stick out. She's the ninth ranked soccer player in the 26 class. She's going to Penn State. She's leaving in a couple weeks. It's sad. I love to train them, but when they get these scholarships to leave me, it's sad. But I'm happy for them. They achieved their dream, man. You know.
So with what you're saying there, that's kind of where we've been. We've sent a lot of kids to go do
Well, you
what.
had that dude. I'm proud of you. You got that javelin thrower, man. Number one in the country. That's impressive, dude.
I don't know what I did there. I think the kid's just a dog. You know what I mean? But I don't want to take credit for his mom and dad's
Well, no,
genetics.
I mean, you're putting all the right training methods you've learned over these podcasts into him. It has to amount for something.
Lord, I hope so.
I
But
mean, I mean, did he get the state record or no?
yeah, he's got state record. Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah. He
that's
won last year. He won the KU relays, which this year they're not having them. But the KU relays he won as a junior, won the state title as a junior, won Nike Nationals between his junior and senior year.
to win Nike Nationals is crazy.
Yeah, he's
And
man.
and get a state record like that is amazing.
He he taught me more about the difference in
Well,
twitchy
you know
and
what you said?
strength.
You know what you said though? You said to me earlier, and I think the same way. Because I trained a lot of different sports. And I said, you said that throwing a jab is like throwing a baseball. And it really is, man. It's like it's the same technique. The same technique, man. So if you're good at getting baseball players to throw fast, you can get someone throwing a javelin.
That's the way I looked at it. I'm like,
Because you're running up, you're crow hopping. There's a block step. That plant step has to be straight and locked. There's rotation, external rotation in the shoulder, and then whoop, you follow through. It's the same as a baseball. It's like an outfielder.
that's how I looked at it. And he's got another guy that helps him with the technician part of the throws.
Right.
And me and him talk quite a bit. Great guy. It's probably one of the better relationships I have with a technique coach because me and him will sit around and talk about it, which I find that that's a rarity.
It
Um,
is a rarity.
and I don't know why it's that way. It seems like
I
I struggle breaking down that barrier between me and the sport coaches, and maybe it's something I'm doing wrong. I don't know, but it's almost impossible.
Well, a lot of times the sport coaches think they're the end all be all, but it comes to it comes down to two things. Sport is two things. It's GPP. How athletic are you? Are you strong? Are you flexible? Are you mobile? Are you explosive? And then it's your SSP. How technical are you? That's biomechanics. If they're not good at biomechanics, or well, the biomechanics guy should be working with the athletic guy. That would make that builds the athlete for sure. You know, I try to do it myself and learn as much as I can, but it's good to have a relationship with the sport coach, but it's tough. Sometimes people think they're the end all be all. They think it's all technical. Some sports it is technical. Like I got these people that play their face off of lacrosse. That's technical, man. You can help it out a little bit. Or you got field hockey or diving, something like that. Gymnastics. A lot of it's fairly technical, but a lot of it, this stuff is GPP helps out too. But javelin is both. It's highly technical, but highly GPP because that javelin weighs weight. If you're strong, you can throw it further. It's just that simple.
I
Now you got
think
to bring motion and everything to go with it. That external rotation of the shoulder and the spine mobility. That's all matters too. But again, that's physical. That's general physical preparation.
I will tell you what, that kid made me understand that there is a huge difference between twitchy kids and strength kids.
Oh yeah, How so?
Okay, so I started noticing I had some other guys in here, some shot putters and stuff that were incredibly strong.
Okay.
You know, let's say I don't remember what that kid was boxing at the time, box squatting at the time, but let's say it was probably somewhere around four. One of my shot putters was probably around 455. He was probably box squatting at the time. It wasn't incredibly high, but it was a decent box squat. The javelin thrower probably wasn't box squatting that much. He was probably mid threes at that time. But when I banded him up and I asked him to push that weight at zero point 0.9 meters per second, the javelin kid was way stronger.
Mm. He's more powerful.
Yeah, he was blowing those kids out of the water. Like it was almost like the Samuel Colt of weightlifting. It was like all of a sudden you found this great equalizer. Okay, that kid's different. So then what I found out was I could band him up to peak him, but the strength kids, if I banded them up, it hurt them.
Mm. Interesting.
And then that opened up this whole idea of like, okay,
Do you think it fatigued them at all? Is that what you think?
the bands, I think it did. I don't know if it fatigued them or if it just didn't play into their strength.
Okay.
And then,
Philosophy of this is the bands will make you more. They'll make you produce force faster. If you're a freaky athlete that's twitchy, you'll be even more freakier. But if you're a poor athlete, it'll make you somewhat make you should make you better because they need to the athletes need to produce force faster. They need to be powerful.
and I agree with that. It will make you better. I agree with that. But what I found out was you can't outrun their strengths to chase. I don't know. This is going to sound weird because it's not how I
Right,
mean it,
you're
but
right.
you've got to double down on their strength, especially when it's time to go. You know what
It's
I
true.
mean? Like,
It's
like
true.
it's a state meet. We can jack with these things you need help with, but it's too late. We missed the boat on that. Now we got to go with what your strength is to get you over the top.
That's true. Louis would say you got to work on their weaknesses, but you can't neglect their strengths. And you have to actually, sometimes you have to play to their strengths.
That's what I found out. So I had a shot putter that the kid I'm talking about, good athlete, very technical. So you had to watch. Sometimes he'd live in his own head too much, but
Mm.
we were tinkering around trying to figure out what got him to throw better on meet days. So we went light shot put for a while. He'd throw like crap at the meet. That light shot put did nothing for him. We had to go. We actually went to like a 30-pound medicine ball
Mm.
and just let him throw that medicine ball, and then he'd go to the meet and he'd blow it out of the water. But the jab kid was totally opposite. You couldn't do that to him because it'd fry him out. And then
You couldn't slow his nervous system down too much; it would hurt him.
yes, yep. And then the other
But
kid,
it would thrive on it. The speed would kill him. It would fry him out.
yep.
See, that's coaching right there. You observe these things. You play to their strengths and not their weaknesses.
And I did learn that with the bands, I love the bands, but with a really really twitchy athlete, you can ride on that CNS really hard, and 1 minute they look amazing, and then the next day they look tired. So
True.
you got to be careful. It's way more sensitive. The things you do are way more sensitive with the twitchy athlete than they are with a strength athlete.
Well, here's the thing too. My best athletes are the fastest with the speed strength weights, the power weights. Natalie Walters, my jumper, state champion. I remember we were deadlifting one time, and her max was at the time was 275. Now today at school they trap bar. I sumo mostly, but she trap bar. She hit 315 pounds a day. But at the time she was 275. I swear to you, I think I put 200 pounds. Yeah, it was 200 pounds in band on. She hit zero point 0.8 meters per second with that. It was flying. And then yeah, that would suggest she has a somewhat like was it? No, yeah, that would suggest she has like a 300-pound deadlift. But she gets to 250, she'd slow down. Why is that? Because she's powerful. Marquise was the same way. He was deadlifting too. He was deadlifting at the time. He was pulling maybe 504. This is when he was young. This is freshman year. And he would put 250 on, 275 on the bar with bands. He'd put that thing like that, like nothing. because he was powerful. And so the best athletes produce the most force in the short amount of time. They create the most power, you know. And so that's what I'm noticing too. But that's your javelin thrower. He is powerful. Oh
He's he does stuff that just makes you shake your head. You know,
yeah.
and you just watch him, and you're just like, how did you end up here? It was, by the grace of God, he walked through my door because his friends were coming here.
Is that what
But
happened? Okay, I was going to ask you how he found you. Okay.
yeah, yeah, it's a very small town, so his options were very limited, and then his
Okay.
friends came here, and so he came as a freshman. When he came, he was probably 5'5", 115 pounds, and now he's over 6. He
Okay.
runs somewhere between 205 to 210. Uh, he's probably 6. He might be pushing 6'2" right now.
Wow.
He's a big jack kid.
He probably got long arms. You got long arms?
Oh yeah, he's long. So he's getting just huge rotation on that thing.
I was telling you earlier, you gotta have a model athlete. You get a javelin thrower and he's 5'6" or 5'7", short arms, and and let's say he's twitchy. He's limited, dude. He's limited. He's not a model athlete. So
Well,
you almost have to have a model athlete too.
that was like my shot putting kid. I love that kid to death, but he's, I don't know, 5'7", 5'8".
Oh wow.
We got him up to 15 meters, but
You know,
if he would have been 6 foot, he would have been a 16-meter thrower. We just, you're fighting a lot of stuff there.
I was talking, Joe Kovacs is from my area. He's the second best shot putter in the world ever. And he came in to lift with me a little bit. His wife is his trainer. And I was talking to him. I said, Joe, I thought Joe was tall. No, he's probably like 5'10". He's got to go against Krauser. Krauser's like 6'4", long arms. So he's at a disadvantage. He goes, Byrd, I'm at a disadvantage. Krauser's tall and long. I got to beat him with massive brute strength and explosion. So he did beat Krauser a couple times. It's just that guy's a model athlete. Not that Joe isn't. It's just, Joe's a freak too. Strength wise and explosion. And Joe will jump 10 feet in a broad jump. But the guy squats 1,000 pounds and benches 600. So, but it's tough when you got a guy at 6'4". It's super tough. Like your guy's five. Was he five? You said 5'7"?
The shot putter was, yeah,
Yeah,
he
that's
was,
that's that's rough, man.
and he did well. He made it to state, but
Uh,
eventually you're throwing.
how many feet did he throw?
I had his best throw. He went 15 meters.
What is that in feet? I'm so Americanized.
Man, you had to say that. It's what is that? 50.
15 meters. That's gotta
You're at
be.
four. You're pushing 50. You're just a little over 50, aren't you?
Yeah, you're right around 49. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know this because I talked to this guy named Gatson. He trained the triple jump Olympic champion, Thea LaFon, and her I think she jumps 15 meters. She jumps like 50 feet, as a female. So that's why I know. That's why I kind of know she jumps about 50 feet.